Stop lying. You've always been like this. My dad didn't even look at me when he said it. He was staring at the wall behind my head, like the truth might crawl out of the paint if he waited long enough. My brother scoffed from the couch. 13 and already stealing. That's actually impressive. Then he smiled. The kind of smile that gets forgiven before it's even questioned. I remember the sound more than the words. The clink of my brother's watch against the glass table. The hum of the refrigerator. How quiet the house felt for a place that was about to stop being mine. Some families break loudly. Mine did it politely. That night I learned something early. When a family chooses a favorite, the rest of you become disposable. Facts don't matter. Tears don't matter. All that matters is who fits the story they already want to believe. Hi everyone. My name is Lena Parker. And when I was 13 years old, my father kicked me out of our house because my golden brother said I stole his college savings. I didn't even know what college savings meant back then. I just knew money lived in envelopes and none of them had my name on them. My brother stood there, arms crossed, calm and confident. He told them I'd been sneaking into his room. That I'd been jealous. That I'd lied before, so why not now? I opened my mouth to speak, but my dad raised his hand like a judge ending a trial. Pack a bag, he said. You need to learn consequences. The word consequences landed heavier than the duffel bag he shoved into my hands. I walked past the family photos on the hallway wall. Birthdays I barely remembered, smiles that now felt staged. My brother wouldn't meet my eyes. He didn't have to. He'd already won. Outside the air smelled like wet concrete. It was late and the porch light buzzed like it was tired of watching us pretend to be a family. I stood there barefoot holding my bag waiting for someone to stop me. To ask a question. To hesitate. No one did. That was the first time I realized something was deeply wrong. Not with me but with the story they were telling. And standing in the dark, I made a quiet decision no one heard. If they were going to lie about me, I would learn how to prove the truth. The porch light clicked off behind me. That sound did something permanent to my chest. I stood there for a few seconds after it went dark just to be sure. Sometimes you think people will call you back at the last second. Sometimes they don't. The night swallowed the house and with it whatever version of childhood I thought I still had. I walked. Bare feet on cold sidewalk. The duffel bag kept slipping off my shoulder. Every few steps I told myself not to cry yet. Crying felt like agreeing with them. By morning I was sitting on the steps of my middle school. The janitor found me there when he came to unlock the doors. He didn't ask questions. He just handed me a paper towel and pointed me toward the office. That became the pattern. Adults didn't ask why. They just assumed. At school the whispers started fast. Thief. Liar. Trouble. Teachers stopped calling on me. Friends stopped sitting next to me. Even the counselor looked at me like I was a file already closed. My brother's story traveled faster than I ever could. I learned how to be invisible. How to memorize bell schedules so I could avoid hallways. How to eat lunch in bathroom stalls. How to keep my head down while people looked at me like I was something broken they didn't want to touch. At night I stayed wherever I could, couches, basements, sometimes nowhere at all. And every time I closed my eyes I saw my brother's calm face. So confident. So sure. That's when it clicked. People who lie that easily don't stop with one lie. They get sloppy. And if I paid attention, he'd leave fingerprints everywhere. I started paying attention the way scared kids do, quietly and constantly. My brother liked to brag. Not openly. Casually. Dropping comments about cash like it was air. New sneakers. New phone. Money for things college funds weren't supposed to cover. When I asked once where it came from, he laughed. You wouldn't get it. He was right. But not in the way he thought. I kept a notebook hidden under my mattress at the place I was staying then. Dates. Times. Things he said. Who he met. Cars that waited too long at the curb. I didn't know what it meant yet. I just knew it didn't match the version of him my father worshipped. School treated me worse as the months passed. Detention for things I didn't do. Teachers who spoke slowly to me like I was already lost. My brother's shadow followed me everywhere. One afternoon I saw him in the parking lot, talking to someone older. The man leaned into the car window. Quick exchange. No eye contact. My stomach tightened. That night I added a new line to my notebook. I didn't call it evidence yet. I called it patterns. And patterns have a way of telling the truth even when people won't. I stopped trying to clear my name. That was a fight you lose when you're 13 and alone. Said I waited. Because lies need maintenance. And my brother was getting lazy. By 15 I knew more than I ever wanted to. The man from the parking lot had a name now. I heard it whispered once, then again. I never wrote the name down. Names can be erased. Behavior can't. My brother stopped pretending the money was clean. He just assumed no one would question him. Why would they? He was still the golden one. The future. The pride. Meanwhile, I was still the problem. One day, a teacher pulled me aside and said, "You know, if you just admitted it, things might be easier." That sentence did something sharp to me. Because it confirmed what I already knew. My truth wasn't wanted. It was inconvenient. So I stopped offering it. Instead, I learned how systems work. How schools log incidents. How banks timestamp transactions. How phones keep records even when people delete messages. I volunteered at the library. Used the computers. Learned quietly. Every time my brother slipped. A late-night call, a panic text, a sudden burst of cash. I logged it. Not emotionally. Precisely. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger is loud. I was focused. And focus is patient. By the time I turned 17, my notebook was thick. Not with accusations, with facts. I didn't know when it would matter. I just knew that one day, someone would finally be forced to listen. The arrest happened on a Tuesday. I heard about it from a girl in chemistry who whispered, "Did you hear?" Like she was sharing gossip, not the beginning of an earthquake. My brother's dealer, the older man, had been picked up during a traffic stop. Possession. Intent. Enough to make him talk. The school buzzed. Phones vibrated. Teachers pretended nothing was happening while watching the doors. My brother didn't show up that day. For the first time, his absence was louder than his presence. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed and opened my notebook. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I didn't rush. I didn't panic. I organized. Dates matched. Times aligned. The money withdrawals overlapped with the dealer's activity. Messages that once seemed meaningless suddenly fit together like teeth in a zipper. This wasn't revenge. This was inevitability. I didn't go to my father. Not yet. I waited for the lie to collapse under its own weight. Because confessions don't come from pressure alone. They come when there's nowhere left to stand. The call came 2 nights later. My father's voice was different. Smaller. Like someone had let the air out of him. "Lena," he said. He hadn't used my name in years. "We need to talk." I went to the house. I hadn't stepped inside since I was 13. The walls were the same. The silence wasn't. My brother sat at the table. Shaking. Not smiling. The police report lay open between us. The dealer had talked. Not about me. About him. About the money. About the lie that started everything. My father kept rereading one line like his eyes could undo it. No one apologized at first. They just stared at me. I placed my notebook on the table. Gently. Like it was fragile. "I didn't steal anything," I said. "Come." I just paid attention. My brother broke. Words spilled out, excuses, fear, anger. He didn't look at me once. I didn't need him to. Because for the first time the truth was louder than the lie. My father cried. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just the quiet kind. The kind that happens when a belief finally dies. "I should have listened," he said. He didn't ask for forgiveness. Maybe he knew better. The school called a week later. Corrections were made. Records adjusted. Teachers avoided my eyes. Apologies arrived awkwardly like mail sent too late. My brother moved out. Not in anger. Me. I didn't celebrate. I felt light. Like something heavy had finally been set down. People think justice feels like victory. It doesn't. Feels like breathing again. I never moved back into that house. Not because I couldn't, but because I finally understood something important. Some doors don't close to teach you a lesson. They close to show you who was never planning to protect you in the first place. My father tried. I'll give him that. He sent messages that started formal and ended tired. Long paragraphs about regret. About how he'd failed me. About how he wished he could go back to that night and ask just one question before opening the door and telling me to leave. But time doesn't rewind for apologies. We met once, months later, in a quiet diner. He cried again. Softer this time. Like someone mourning not just a daughter, but the version of himself who believed he was a good man. I don't expect forgiveness, he said. That was the first honest thing he'd ever said to me. My brother never showed up. He moved away after everything collapsed. Lost his reputation. Lost the future he'd been handed so easily. He didn't call. He didn't text. And strangely, I didn't need him to. Because his confession didn't just clear my name. It freed me from carrying his lie. I built my life slowly. Carefully. With truth instead of approval. I learned that proof is powerful, but self-respect is stronger. And sometimes the real justice isn't watching someone fall. It's realizing you survived what was meant to break you and walked away whole.